It's kinda crazy. You don't hear things like Walmart closing. It feels fundamentally wrong, like hearing that gravity is taking a sick day. Walmart is supposed to be a constant, as permanent as Mount Rushmore, only with more discounted tube socks. So when the news broke, it felt less like a business announcement and more like a glitch in the matrix. A shocker tonight for suburban shoppers. Walmart announcing it's closing 3 stores. For a company that seems to multiply like a resilient fungus, any contraction is cause for alarm. This was a symptom of a much larger, more convulsive shift. A sign that the foundations of our consumer paradise are more fragile than we thought. And it all started with a single, ominous warning from the top. The year is 2018. The world is watching as the United States embarks on a bold and controversial economic experiment. The president launches a trade war with China, wielding tariffs like a sledgehammer. The goal? To bring manufacturing jobs back to American soil and reduce the trade deficit. Tariffs, taxes on imports, were supposed to make American goods more competitive, but for Walmart, whose shelves overflow with Chinese products, it was a disaster. The retail giant had built its empire on the promise of low prices, largely thanks to cheap imports. Walmart's CEO warned, if tariffs go through, prices will rise. The company, which had long been a symbol of American consumerism, was now facing a crisis. The always low prices promise? Suddenly, not so sacred. Shoppers who had come to rely on Walmart for affordable goods were in for a shock. Tariffs on some goods soared to 145%. The immediate effect was felt across the board, from electronics to everyday household items. Even after settling at 30%, the impact was immediate. Shoppers were stunned as they saw their grocery bills climb higher and higher. Everyday items, shampoo, diapers, toys, were suddenly more expensive. Families who were already stretching their budgets found themselves making tough choices. A $100 bike now cost $130. For many families, this was more than just an inconvenience. It was a significant financial burden. For families on tight budgets, that extra $30 was a week's groceries or a utility bill. The ripple effects of the trade war were being felt in households across America. The shockwaves hit not just Walmart, but the entire supply chain, importers, distributors, and ultimately, every American consumer. The interconnected nature of global trade meant that no one was spared. Walmart's price hike signaled the end of an era. The age of endlessly cheap goods was over. The news headlines were filled with stories of rising prices and economic uncertainty. The narrative? Paying more was patriotic, but for many, it just felt like a raw deal. The promise of a stronger economy seemed distant as everyday expenses grew. The company that once moved production overseas to cut costs was now caught in a crossfire of politics and economics. The strategies that had once driven its success were now under intense scrutiny. The battle lines were drawn, a president betting on tariffs, a retail giant built on global trade, and millions of Americans caught in the middle. The stakes were high, and the outcome uncertain. Walmart's first move? A frantic, globe-spanning search for a new plan. The company had to adapt quickly to the new economic landscape. The retail world would never be the same. The trade war had reshaped the landscape, leaving a lasting impact on businesses and consumers alike. Walmart faced a crisis that threatened its very business model: absorb massive new costs, or completely overhaul its entire supply chain. The stakes were enormous. For a company built on the promise of everyday low prices, even a small increase in costs could ripple out to millions of customers and billions in sales. The pressure was on to find a solution, and fast. The answer? Move fast, really fast. Walmart's logistics teams kicked into overdrive, working around the clock to keep the flow of goods moving and stores stocked. Orders shifted almost overnight from China to Vietnam, India, and Mexico. The company's global sourcing network was reprogrammed on the fly, rerouting billions of dollars in orders to new suppliers. Factories in Hanoi and Mumbai, once minor players, suddenly became Walmart's new lifelines. Production lines ramped up, and local economies boomed as Walmart's business poured in. Walmart's teams were on the ground, helping new suppliers scale up, troubleshoot problems, and meet the company's strict standards. Their mission: ensure shelves stayed stocked, no matter what. They even tweaked products to exploit tariff loopholes, redesigning backpacks, reclassifying goods, and changing materials, anything to dodge extra costs. Every detail was scrutinized for savings. The Made in USA pledge? Quietly abandoned. American suppliers were out, cheaper foreign factories were in. The patriotic marketing faded as the reality of global economics took over. Ironically, tariffs made it less appealing to buy American. Vietnamese goods were tariff-free and cheaper. The very policies meant to protect U.S. jobs ended up pushing business overseas. Walmart's loyalty was to low costs, not any country. For shoppers, the only thing that mattered was price, and Walmart knew it. The trade war didn't bring jobs back, it just changed the address on the shipping label. Factories closed in one country, opened in another, but the products kept coming. The logistical challenge was immense. Rerouting millions of products, keeping 4,000+ stores stocked, and managing a web of suppliers across continents. It was a high-wire act with no safety net. But for Walmart, survival meant adapting, no matter the cost, to old promises. The company's future depended on its ability to pivot, even if it meant leaving some values behind. The global machine kept running, just with new parts. The world's supply chains had shifted, but the end goal, low prices, remained the same. For American workers, the promise of Made in USA faded into the background, replaced by the relentless march of globalization and the pursuit of the lowest possible price. As Walmart scrambled to adapt to global pressures, it faced a second crisis brewing right at home, rising costs and mounting pressure to raise wages for its massive workforce. The company, once famous for its people-first approach, now found itself squeezed by both international tariffs and domestic demands for better pay and benefits. Every dollar counted, and the old model of endless human cashiers and shelf stockers was suddenly looking unsustainable. The solution? Automation, fast, relentless, and everywhere. Walmart began rolling out new technology at a breakneck pace, determined to cut costs and stay ahead of the competition. Robots took over jobs once done by people, scanning shelves for missing items, unpacking boxes in the back, and scrubbing floors long after the last customer left. These machines worked tirelessly, never calling in sick or asking for overtime. They didn't need breaks, health insurance, or pay raises. For Walmart, the math was simple. More machines meant fewer expenses. Self-checkout lanes exploded across stores, turning everyday shoppers into unpaid cashiers. Suddenly, the checkout process was in the hands of the customer, not the employee. Scan-and-go technology let shoppers scan items with their phones, pitched as a new level of convenience, but in reality, it was about slashing labor costs and shifting the work onto customers. Every dollar lost to tariffs or rising wages was clawed back by reducing payroll, automating tasks, and squeezing more out of every remaining worker. The official line was all about empowering associates and creating new opportunities. But the reality was stark. Fewer jobs, more machines, and a shrinking role for people in the world's largest retailer. AI now optimized inventory and scheduling, squeezing every ounce of efficiency, often at the expense of workers' well-being and job security. Walmart's transformation into a tech-driven retailer was turbocharged by the trade war, but it was also a response to a changing world, one where technology, not people, was the key to survival. The company that once prided itself on its people now saw humans as just another cost to be minimized, a line item to be trimmed. The future of retail looked less like Main Street and more like Amazon, automated, impersonal, and ruthlessly efficient. For many Walmart employees, that future was deeply uncertain, a world where job security was replaced by algorithms and anxiety. The age of the blue vest was giving way to the age of the algorithm, and for millions of workers, the rise of the machines was no longer science fiction, it was their new reality. Enter the world's most powerful Twitter user, President Trump. As Walmart warned of price hikes, the White House fired back, demanding Walmart absorb the tariffs. The president saw Walmart's move as betrayal, not business reality. Twitter exploded. The message Walmart should suck it up for America. Many agreed. Why should a giant corporation pass costs to consumers? But the economics were simple. Tariffs are paid by importers, not China. Walmart couldn't just eat billions in new costs. The public debate raged. Should Walmart protect consumers or shareholders? Was it unpatriotic to raise prices? Walmart walked a tightrope, quietly reworking its supply chain, publicly promising value. The crisis forced a national conversation. What do corporations owe their country? Is profit the only duty? In the end, nothing changed. Walmart raised prices, the president tweeted, and consumers paid more. The always low prices era was over, killed by politics, economics, and a few angry tweets. The American shopper was left holding the bag. Walmart's global pivot had real consequences for American towns. As supply chains shifted, U.S. distribution centers downsized or closed, often the biggest employers in rural counties. Workers lost stable jobs with no replacements in sight. Small American suppliers, once dependent on Walmart, were dropped for cheaper foreign alternatives. The irony tariffs meant to protect U.S. jobs actually accelerated their loss. Rural communities, once anchored by Walmart, now faced economic decline as hours were cut and automation took over. The promise of stable retail jobs faded. The economic anchor was slipping away. When one company dominates, its decisions hit like natural disasters. Walmart's rational, profit-driven moves had irrational, devastating effects on real people. Local economies hollowed out, jobs lost, money drained, communities weakened. The hidden cost of cheap goods and political gamesmanship was paid by forgotten towns. The global machine is sensitive. When it breaks, it's not CEOs who suffer most. It's the people on the ground, left to pick up the pieces. So where does this leave us? We're in the checkout line of a globalized economy and the bill is due. Walmart's crisis forces tough questions. Was this survival or betrayal? Is it fair to expect companies to absorb tariffs? There are no easy answers, just messy trade-offs. Walmart's evolution is a warning. The era of cheap goods and stable jobs is ending. The ground is shifting. What we thought was permanent is not. The next time you use self-checkout, remember, that convenience is the ghost of a job. The always low prices was always conditional. Are we ready for the price we'll have to pay?